Hello, family. Welcome to Law for Love, where the gender wars end. They end here at Law for Love. We are hearing what everybody has to say. We're hearing what everybody is feeling. We're hearing what each individual on each side of family dispute, what they are experiencing so that we can find the truth, so that we are no longer self destructing as a community in the area of our family. The family is the cornerstone of society, it always has been. And with societal decline and this growing narrative about everything that's wrong with women and everything that's wrong with men, a wedge has been put between us in a way that has driven us further and further apart to the point where we can't recognize anyone each other anymore, and we've lost sight of what the real is. Shalom, welcome in, brother Fast Nickel, brother Walt. Shalom and welcome. So, gender wars stop here. We're all hurting, and I'm reminded of that every single day here at Law for Love, working with both husbands and wives in very painful situations. And, I'm just going to kind of throw this out here really quick because I used to be a part of this particular belief and trap. And that was that women somehow we have a monopoly on feelings. Our feelings hurt more than their feelings. Speaking of men. And no, I think that's one of the biggest stumbling blocks in a lot of our families, that our culture is talking about the woman's needs and the woman's hurt and the woman's pain as though women have a monopoly on pain over men. Men just get over it. And no, and Law for Love and the work that we do is a perfect example of how much everyone hurts the same. It's just that the way that we express it or the way that society is accepting of that experience, it's different. Men are treated a lot different than women when it comes to expressing their feelings. I mean, I don't think you necessarily get, a fist bump for you. Yeah, man, good job expressing your feelings. Like, no. But I think it's a big part of one of the keys why our families are hurting. So today we're talking about mental illness. And I'm going to be very personal when I talk about mental illness today, because my take on mental illness, again, from a legal professional standpoint, almost every one of our cases involve some type or some manifestation of mental illness. Um, but even more, just to unpack some of the spiritual things that are taking place when a person is suffering mental illness. And so, shalom and welcome in, Sister Princess. So the one that I want to talk about today is going to be depression, and we'll be joined a little later on in this journey on He Say She Say Family Coach Live by my brand partner. April Taylor is a licensed therapist. She and I have very similar approaches to family conflict, and this is what brought us together as brand partners. Just our work overlaps so much in terms of the way, number one, the issues, right? Family conflict. But number two, because I am more concerned about helping a family heal, it very much overlaps into that therapeutic space that she practices in. And I'll be having her on here to talk about some of these things from a clinical perspective. And I'm not here to talk clinically, I'm here to speak spirit. So depression is one of those things that is very damaging in a marriage. And you kind of have a couple of varieties of depression, right? You have the type of person who just always seems depleted of energy. And then you have the type of person who they have great days, and then they have days when the days are not great. They lack the governor to kind of keep them evened out through the storms of life. And this could be very taxing on a relationship. In fact, when I was going through my own journey of depression and unpacking depression, realizing that, number one, Black folks don't really like to talk about mental illness openly in public spaces. These conversations have always been taboo. They've always been like, I ain't crazy. If somebody tell you you need to go see somebody, you need to go get a therapist, the first defense is, I'm not crazy. And for years, my husband would say to me, I think maybe you should ask your doctor to give you a little something to balance you out. And I just really rejected that for a really long time because I'm big on natural healing, herbal medicine, prayer, meditation. Like, I'm big on that kind of stuff. And again, of course, being an attorney, I need to hit you with the disclaimer. I'm not giving mental advice. I'm not giving medical advice. This isn't even legal advice. Here on He Say, She Say. It's just my perspective. It's just my take on the things that I've experienced and the things that I see, the things that I observe when families are struggling, specifically with the issue of depression. And what was happening spiritually was, number one, I was not aware on a conscious level, right? So sometimes we know something is off, but we know something is off kind of like deeper inside of us. We know we don't feel good. And the mind is so powerful that it's always looking for an explanation for its discomfort, right? It's always looking for a logic. And if I haven't said so here before, I love to use the example of my grandmother and how she has good days, she has bad days when it comes to her memory, right? So one day she couldn't find the peanut butter. She couldn't remember where she put the peanut butter. And her mind is not going to point at itself and say something's wrong with my mind. The mind is going to come up with a math problem that's going to make logical sense. And the logic that my grandmother created to explain what happened to the peanut butter was that my cousin broke into her house and stole it. And I share this example a lot, and I call it peanut butter brain, right? Because when you're dealing with mental illness, you're dealing with a mind that's still going to create logic out of the circumstances. Like the mind is going to tell itself that something's wrong with me. And so in my journey through depression, number one, it had to become a conscious awareness that no, I'm struggling. My battery is drained. My outlook on life is not bright. I'm exhausted. And tuning in and recognizing that what was happening as a result of not having or formulating or accepting the awareness of my depressed state, my mind kept creating a story about how it was all my husband's fault. It was always his fault. Everything was his fault. My frustration was always his fault. I could always point at something he did that aggravated my condition because that was the peanut butter brain at work. The brain that doesn't want to say to itself, I'm the problem. I'm focusing in the wrong place. And several things happened to help me heal in this area and to maintain healing in this area. And I want to share those things with you today because if you are an individual that has bouts of depression, if you are married to someone who struggles with depression, then I'm sharing my personal journey and things that I have pulled and picked up along the way for the sake of encouraging you and giving you some tools and some insights on, yes, you can do this without, having to go check yourself in at the inpatient situation. Now, if it's at that point, maybe you should check yourself in at the in, the intake, the inpatient situation. If you're feeling like you don't want to live anymore, if you're feeling like you want to hurt yourself, um, and I'm not laughing at that. I make the joke about checking yourself in because I did get to the point where I questioned whether or not I should check myself in. My husband keeps telling me that something's wrong with me. I don't see it because the only thing that my mind said was that he was the source of all of my unhappiness. So I did get to that point one night where I just told my small group, the sisters in my small group, like, look, I'm not going home tonight. I'm just gonna go check myself in the Peach View or whatever the place is called. And my girlfriends looked at me and they was like, well, if you going, we all going. We're gonna go together. We're gonna have a slumber party. And they made light of it to let me know, hey, it's okay that you're struggling right now. But when I talk about inpatient, for real, if you are having suicidal ideation and you seriously questioning the reason for your life, you might need to get that level of intervention. I do think that's not a laughing matter. So I don't want to be misunderstood in that way. But when I'm laughing at myself, so I knew that something was really, really off and that I was tired. I was doing everything that I thought I was supposed to do, right? Most people feel like they're doing the right thing. They feel like they see the things the right way. Again, that's how powerful our mind is. Our mind is not going to look at itself. And I ended up, basically dialing for a lifeline and found a small group on the church's website that was women Bible study kind of situation. And I made it my business to get there on a Friday night, and I was barely making it. And that was the beginning of the journey of self-awareness. Because I'm sorry, but sometimes with education, with professional experience, with all other type of life experience where you feel like, I know myself, I know what I'm doing, I know how I'm thinking. Sometimes we become prideful in thinking that we're self-aware. But it wasn't until I was in an environment with other people who could be that sounding board and that reflection that I was able to see myself in ways that were uncomfortable for me to see myself in ways where I get on people's nerves, where I aggravate people, where I'm not as funny as I think I am, or, I'm not as pleasant to interact with. And so being in a small group of people with shared values created the safety for me to begin to see myself and become more aware that I had some issues that I didn't really want to face. And that issue, for me in the church, it was like, you don't claim depression. You don't claim labels, because that's a part of the healing doctrine, right? Is that, when someone says, hey, I wonder if you're struggling with this, you'd be like, rebuke that in the name of Jesus, like that. That was my upbringing. So the last thing I would allow anyone to do was suggest a label that I would attach onto myself and I would receive, because that would be contrary to my ability to heal. I'm very, very strong in my belief, and I still do believe that way, but I'm balancing it out now with more of an awareness that this thing is real. When you consider the fact that you as a human being, your body is electrical. You are a vibrational being. You actually do have low energy. These things are not labels to cause you to be demon possessed, but they are things to bring that awareness to you so that you can take action. And so small group Bible study was the first step. Being in fellowship with a small group of women in a safe space where I can be honest and I can have connection and there was no judgment, right? I will make a note here, just based on some societal trends, that women tend to be more open to being in these type of environments, these safe accountability environments, than men. We are living in a cultural dynamic where men, more often than women, are self-isolating and suffering silently with issues like these. And so almost 100% of the time, when working in a family where there are issues of depression on one side or the other, nearly 100% of the time, that man, the husband, is the one who does not have community that he is engaging with on a regular basis. He's not connecting with friends in meaningful ways. He's not engaged in men's fellowship. And it is something that's bothering me when I'm sharing with you what I'm noticing in the community. So, men, the scriptures say it is not good for man to be alone. And I'm just going to throw it out here. The TV is not your best friend. Your mobile device is not your best friend. These things, they might be a convenient escape for you to just like unwind a little bit. But a lot of our men have gotten sucked into the escapism of screens to the detriment of community outside of the home. And then one other point to emphasize this, what I'm bringing to the attention of my brothers. I recently listened to a here you go. Here you go. You gotta stop the fight. Cell phone ain't never cussed me out though. I hear you, bro. I hear you. Look. You know I'm gonna get on. I'm gonna get on the sisters as much as I get on the brothers. But I get it. I get it. Isn't that why they always said that the dog was man's best friend? He ain't never talked back. He just come lay at your feet and chill. He was cool with you, but happy to see you when you came home. Like I know a lot of people don't get that anymore these days. I mean, you have to work all day. If you're commuting, the hellified commute, and then you get through the door and it's some chaos and jumped off at the house before you got there. Nobody happy to see you walk through the door. It's like, you can count on that dog to be happy to see you come through the door. Like, I get it. Everybody wants to feel that way when they come home, not just men. Women want to be greeted with a smile and a hug and a how was your day? I mean, it really does help when you consider that we're working apart from each other, most of us, having to go in and make these monopoly dollars to pay the bills in the matrix here. So the one other point that I want to share with you, brothers, about isolation and specifically with respect to depression, there is this book, and I'm sorry, I don't have the title for it right now. I'll probably figure out a way to leave it in the description box. There is this book that was written by a lady, and I heard about this on a podcast. It's called Parents Making Money. Hey, I'm loving this podcast. For any of you all who are entrepreneurs raising kids, it's a great conversation. But there was one podcast where the host was sharing some thoughts from this book written by a woman who was a nurse, like a hospice nurse. And she wrote about all of these people's story when they knew they were dying, the things that they wish they had done or the things that they regretted in life. And 100% of the time, according to this lady and her palliative care patients, men regretted not spending more time with their friends. So I'm gonna just leave that there. I'm not gonna beat I'm not gonna beat a dead horse, but small group was the first part for my personal journey in, number one, depression awareness, and then deliverance and maintaining my joy. And so from small group, I did, kind of evolve into some a one-on-one coaching relationship, because a lot of it was having to deal with where peanut butter brain was still blaming husband for why I don't feel good. Now, that's not to say that he didn't have his share of stuff that he needed to work on, because I have my share of stuff that I'm always needing to work on, right? So it wasn't to deny any of that, and it wasn't to sweep any of that under the rug or to excuse any of that, but it was to see how much was the peanut butter brain making the source of me not feeling good about what he was or was not doing. And that is where the one-on-one coaching really began to help me get some perspective, having someone to push back and be like, nah, hold on, wait a minute now, homegirl. I love my former life coach, Gail. Gail would be like, wait a minute now, sis, and just push back, because when someone is in pain, they're going to give you a version of the story that makes sense. Like if you're not if you're not kind of like keeping an eye out for the operation of peanut butter brain, people will tell you a story that has 100% flawless logic, and you will buy into it, not realizing that this logic is hiding this person's suffering in their mental health. And so the one-on-one coaching did that. And I'm going to say, during my coaching, I stumbled across this book called The 411 Principle. And while attending a marriage ministry at our former church, I began listening to the 411 principle, and it was so simple. Like, it was so simple. It was so liberating. It literally set me free. And this 411 principle comes out of Philippians 4:11, that says, whatsoever things are perfect, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are of a good report, if there be any virtue and if there be any praise, think on these types of things. See, that doesn't mean that I ignore that there's a storm going on over here in this side of my life and I don't like how it's making me feel. But it does remind me that even though this storm is raging, I still woke up with breath and purpose in my life. I still have my health and my family. I still have the sunlight shining through my window. I mean, heck, let me go all the way back to the very first thing to give thanks for, that my creator has extended mercy and loving kindness towards me. That every tear I cry, he collects. And he keeps account of, because he cares for me. Why the scriptures say, cast your cares on the Most High, because he cares for you. He cares for me so much that he's numbered the hairs on my head. When I remind myself of those things, when I remind myself that I am fearfully and wonderfully made, and as a result, he designed me to prosper me. His plans for me are good plans, to see me to make it to an expected end, not to harm me. Because you know what? When the storm is brewing over here and you're going through, the tendency is to start questioning, do I deserve this? Can I ever be happy? Are things ever going to be good for me? And what happens, how depression works, is the more I focus on the storm, that's all I can see possible in my life. And it's going to continue to drain me and drain me and drain me to the point where I can't see what's good, what's pure, what's perfect, what's of a good report. I can't remember that his plans for me are to prosper me and to bring me into an expected end. And so the 411 principle, that book, that helped me break a stronghold, which was the habit of focusing on the storm, the habit of focusing on everything that's not right. In fact, I just read today in what's the day? The 11th. So it was the 11th chapter of Proverbs, that the person who looks for good finds favor. I mean, these things, again, simple but powerful. Because now you take the same person in the same type of storm, the same type of challenging situation, the same type of challenging relationship. But now you have a perspective on this thing where you rise above. I think about it like, you know how airplanes, when they are ascending to their what they call it their altitude. What they call that? The flight altitude. Whatever they call that thing. I can't remember the name of it right now. Their cruising altitude. When there is clouds in that path, there is turbulence. That's when the plane starts shaking. You will have turbulence. But if you just continue on your trajectory like the plane, eventually you will rise above the cloud. You will rise above the storm. And that is the cruising altitude, that when you learn how to think on beautiful, lovely, good report, pure, true, when you learn to look for those things and fix your focus on them, then you remain at a cruising altitude that it doesn't matter what storm is going on down here. That was another one of the main keys to my victory over depression. Another one was, for me, again, I'm a writer, journaling. I cannot tell you how many times I meet people, and I'm convinced this is how we ended up with written scripture in Hebrew, y'all. All these books were written. Sometimes they were written by scribes, but many of them were penned by people going through some crazy stuff. And I sometimes imagine how much of that was them exercising the act of releasing that hurt, that pain, that despair, that disappointment, that fear, that frustration. Get it out of your head and get onto some paper. And if you're not a writer, maybe for you it's fixing something or creating something or splashing some paint on the wall. Whatever it is, create something or pour out. If you're not speaking or getting it out by talking to somebody who's going to hear you without making you feel like a horrible person, judging you, then your journal, for me, and again, I'm just sharing my personal journey to help encourage, that has been, I treat it like a multivitamin. You take your multivitamin every day, Shar writes every day. And that's how I have maintained cruising altitude over depression and over the storms of life. So in a marriage, you're not always aware of what's going on in the mind of the other person. All you see is how they act out in response to you. And if you're living with someone who is depressed, maybe you already knew that they struggle with depression. They're in and out of depression. They're up and they're down. Then take note of these things, that in their mind, everything you do is causing their depression. You don't have to own that. If you are the spouse married to a person struggling with depression, I mean, yes, you admit the stuff that you do that frustrates or aggravates your spouse, because we all frustrate and aggravate our spouse at different times and in different ways. But with the depressed spouse, there is an overemphasis on everything that's wrong about what you do. Be careful not to let that attach itself to you or to your value for yourself. I mean, you don't want to get puffed up and be like, that's all in your peanut butter brain. Don't say that to your spouse. Don't tell them they having peanut butter brain. I do not want to hear it, because if they call me and they say, Shar, yeah, oh, hold on, we finna bring you in, sis. Are you able to hop on, April? Cause we talking about some mental health stuff, and I was just saying that I would bring you on later, but I see you in the chat. If you're able to hop on, I'd love to continue this conversation with the family. So I'm gonna text it to you because I don't know how to text in these. It's like I be trying to text, my text don't show in StreamYard. But if you can hop on, I'd love to have you on because April and I, this is the lady who kidnapped me for my birthday and just really helped me, you know, take another inventory of whatsoever things are lovely, pure, and of a good report. And had an amazing birthday, even accepted me walking around with socks and flip flops on in public. She didn't even care. She let me be myself. So um so yeah, don't go telling your spouse that they got peanut butter brain. If your spouse is suffering from depression, I'm just sharing this insight with you so that you can have the information, so that you can have some grace and some compassion, because depression is a serious affliction. And anyone who was like myself with the way that I managed it, what I would do is I would overexert myself doing things that felt good. Is that a prayer? Okay, let's get you in here. Hey,
Hey, can you hear me?
yes, I can hear you. Welcome in. Welcome in. I was letting the family know that we are brand partners, Season for Love, coming to a website near you.
I'm sitting here now trying to figure out this domain thing. I don't do WordPress. I don't know nothing about it, but me and Corey it out. We thugging it out over here. So we might.
But I'll be so happy. So April and I are working on getting our website launched. We did a photo shoot. And that was super cute. Like, I only have one beef though. I only have one beef.
What?
So April is a teeny tiny person. Like, she look regular right now on the she teeny tiny. And I'm already a big girl, so I look extra big next to this
No, you don't.
teeny tiny lady.
No, you don't. You know what? That's something that we always do whenever we look at images of ourselves. Like for me, I zone in on like, look at the wrinkles in my neck. Why do I look so old? We always zone in on our flaws, the things that other people don't see. So
Right,
we look
right.
we look amazing, friend. We look amazing.
The pictures are lovely. Shout out to Ren Edwards. If you're ever in Atlanta, you need the bomb headshots. Ren Edwards, didn't she make you feel good? Like,
She did, and that was so fun. It was so
yeah, it was
fun.
lots of fun. So I'm looking forward to going live. Shout out to Brother Fast Nickel, who will be putting up our WordPress website. April is working on the mechanics in the background, but thank you for hopping in. I know this was last minute invite and random, but we're talking about depression.
I got a
And
few minutes because I actually got a client at 7, but I was sitting here and I was listening and I'm on here and I heard you say a prayer. A prayer. I was like, oh Lord, I'm being summoned. So what you got for me? I'll do my best.
hey, depression in marriage.
Mm-hmm.
What do you see as the way that this is impacting families? One or both people suffering with depression.
Um, the telltale signs are, especially in men, is irritability, being withdrawn, not really engaged. They go through the motions a lot of times unless they have like debilitating depression, where, like you were speaking of earlier, you're at the point where you probably do need to be hospitalized so you can be stabilized. But that kind of low grade depression, I've had a couple of male clients and it was getting in the way of their marriage, of their relationship. He and I had worked together for a while and then I referred them out, him and his wife out to get some couples counseling. And I had been telling him, talk to your doctor, see about taking something. And that went in one ear and out the other because we had built up this kind of rapport where he wasn't listening to me. He wasn't trying to hear it from me. Um, But what did happen was when I sent him to the couples therapist, she was like, I refuse to see you again until you go get some medication. And
Oh,
see, she could do that.
wow. Yeah.
That would have damaged our relationship, our therapeutic
Right.
relationship. But she was able to say, put her foot down, draw the line in the sand. And he went and got some medication, and it did help. It did start to kind of lift that cloud. I actually had diagnosed him with something called dysthymia, and that is like a low grade, long lasting depression. You don't hit those
Mm.
super lows where, like I said, you're debilitated, you can't get out of the bed. But there's that everyday irritability, and then it also impacts your outlook. Everything that happens to you, you view it through the filter of somebody's doing something to me, or it's everything is negative. It's really hard to change your perspective and be able to see things differently. And not to say that it's just about a mindset, because depression is twofold. It is about a mindset, but then there also is that chemical side of it. People don't recognize a vitamin D deficiency sometimes can precipitate depression symptoms. Your gut health is linked to your brain health. And so I look at people and I say, well, tell me about your diet. What are you eating? Are you exercising? So it really does encompass that whole person kind of care, but it does show up in relationships. Like I said, that irritability, that being withdrawn, may be openly combative, but a lot of times it's this kind of low brooding, feeling like they're constantly being slighted. You might say the wife, or let's say the husband. Let's say it's the wife, and the husband says something innocuous like, "Don't forget to do so and so, so and so," and the wife hears, "You always something." Like it feels like it's a constant attack, or they're constantly combative. So in relationships, that's kind of how it shows up sometimes, and of
Mhm.
course I haven't seen every iteration, so I can't speak on every, but I can tell you about some of the things that some of my clients that I've worked with, and some of the things that they've experienced.
I appreciate that, April, and you're going to be proud to know this. As a part of my depression management protocol, I have joined a little dance class at the little church.
Yes, ma'am. She be over there with her sarong on, getting her
Oh,
dance
out
on.
there getting my sweat on. But like as much as sometimes I dread it, I've never liked exercise, but once I do it, I feel so good because I found something that I like. Because you're not gonna find me I'm not doing that.
You have to
I'm
find
not
something that you like, or else you won't do it.
Yes, yes. Well, I love it. And if you would just tell folks how they can find you, if there's anybody on here looking for someone in that therapeutic space to talk to about issues like depression or any other mental illness, or if you suspect that the mental illness might be at the root of the conflict and that's been ongoing in your family situation, how can the family reach you, April?
They can find me at Season for Change. That's season, the number four change, counseling.com. That's my website. My phone number is 404-969-4642. So look me up on my website. Give me a phone call. I'll get back to you. I do offer a 15-minute free consultation. That way, I can kind of get to the root of what you're working on, and see if we are a good fit, because that is very important also. I try to stay within my wheelhouse. So if someone is dealing with something that's, you know, um, a dissociative disorder or a schizophrenia, that's outside of my scope of practice. So I would refer them out to someone. So, but I normally tell people, come and see me 3 times. And in those 3 times, you're getting to see if I am a good fit for you. And I'm also peeping to see if you're a good fit for me, because it's my ethical duty to refer you to someone who may specialize in something. I don't want to be in here trying to thug it out. That's kind of the way I proceed. So if someone has some issues that they're dealing with, and maybe they just want to come and talk to me and say, well, what do you think this is? Like I said, I offer a 15-minute consultation. um Happy to help, happy to shed some light on whatever people might be going through.
Hey, Pro, I appreciate it. And what's the name of our domain? Because, like I said, we're brand partners now. So our domain is
Season for Love.
Season for
So you got
Love.
Law for Love and Season for Change, and we mash that thing together. And it's a season for love,
Season
loving
for Love.
yourself, loving your partner, loving the people that God has blessed you to be in community with. So that is kind of our common thread, and our goal is to heal self, heal families, and so we can bring healing to the community.
Yes, and I love it. I thank you so much for, let me drop this on you. I appreciate you so much. Thank you for all you do. I'm gonna let Fast Nickel come for you though if you keep delaying.
Hey, I'm working on it. Look, last week, like you was under stuff last week. Last week I was sick like every day. It was one thing or another coming for me. So over the weekend, I kind of healed, and like today, I'm like I'm unstoppable. So
yes, welcome
we're gonna
back.
get this done tonight.
I'm so excited. I've shared the pictures with a couple of people and they love our photos. So I'm so excited for our website. But thank you for hopping on and thank you for sharing that clinical approach, because I ain't on here to be no clinician. I'm just telling my little story. But
exactly. And that's all we have is our story.
Yes. Well, be blessed and enjoy your client time. I'm gonna let you go so you can go ahead and get in the mindset.
All right, then y'all take care. I'm gonna see if I can fit. Oh, I see how to leave. So y'all, and hopefully I'll see you again next time. Not next time, sometime in the future when I'm invited back.
Yes, of course. We got to dive into some other stuff. I want to talk about anxiety in marriage.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. See you
All right,
next
take
time.
care.
You too. So yeah, y'all got a preview of our dynamic. You laughing at us, Fast Nickel? Look, I'm putting the buck on her. We already learned around here at Law for Love. Fast Nickel coming, he gonna put you to work. So I'm excited about the partnership that we have, because my approach to law is very in alignment with her therapeutic approach, and we just want to wrap our arms around families as best as we can, do no harm, help you heal, right? So that's the conversation, y'all. If there's no questions, or do you have a what's this? What is this? Do you have an ER protocol? I do. So Brother Karis, I appreciate you, picking fun at yourself, because I call you Eeyore when you dive way below, the sea level in your mood. But the ER protocol is, don't forget to laugh at yourself. According to the scriptures, the joy of the Lord is our strength. And I really work hard to find something to laugh at least to get me to the moment. So if I had an ER protocol, it would be laughter. But if it's chronic ER, you need to call a prayer and get you a treatment plan. So with that, family, thank you for sharing this time with me. I hope it blesses you and encourages you in some kind of way. Or if you think about, someone that you might love and know who's struggling with depression, or in a marriage with someone who struggles with depression, they kind of stuck, don't know how to navigate that thing, maybe too ashamed to talk about it in public. Look, you couldn't have told my husband 15 years ago that I would even be willing to acknowledge depression. And now that I have gotten free, because it's the truth that sets you free. And coming up with a plan, having a support system, having the right tools in place, like April was pointing out, if you got some chemical stuff going on, all of those things are a part of the recipe of rising above the cloud, rising above the storm, hitting that cruising altitude and maintaining your cruising altitude. So again, this is Law for Love. The gender wars stop here. We got to hear what he say and we get to hear what she say so that we can find our way back to loving each other. With that, family, I love you and we'll see you next week.